Rational function is something you have already encountered in Algebra 1. Even though it's called rational, sometimes when the power gets pretty big, it actually looks rather irrational, right? So let's look at it. So rational function starts with inverse variation, where we have y equals k over x. And here is how we describe the relationship. They all mean the same things. And okay, so let's start with the table at the bottom. If you look at this table here, you will see that as the x value increases in this function, the value of y decreases. And not only it decreases at the same pace. So notice this note here. It says that as x doubles from 1 to 2, from 2 to 4, from 4 to 8, right? As it doubles, look at the y value. It goes from, x is 1, y is 24. Then x doubles, y gets halved. It doubles again, it gets halved again. It gets double again, it gets halved again. So there is a constant rate of change. There's a constant term here. That's what k is for. So that's why this relationship of inverse variation is written as y equals k of x. In other words, as x value increases, the y value decreases. Okay. So this is, I don't really, when I work on these problems, that's all I remember, because customarily, all we remember is y equals something. So as long as I know it's a constant over the x value, I can solve just about anything. In this example, it's an inverse variation, so that's important. That's already disclosed here. Okay, x equals 10, y equals 3. It's asking us to write an equation to represent the inverse variation and find the value when the value of y when x equals -6. So we need to write the equation first. So we start with this inverse variation equation, and then you plug in the x is 10, y is 3, and therefore you solve that k equals 30. And now that's the first step. So now you write out, put the k in there, so you have this very specific function right here. And we're looking for x to be -6, so y equals -5. Okay, so you can say the equation that represents the inverse relation is y equals 30 over x, and when x equals -6, y equals -5. On a guitar, the string length S varies inversely with the frequency F of its vibrations. So immediately we know if there's an inverse relations here, it's S equals K over F. That's what's given in the first sentence. Then the frequency of 26-inch E string is 329.63 cycles per sound. What's the frequency when the string length is 13 inches? It's exactly the same problem as what we did before. So now I have the length at 26 inches, and I have the frequency of 329.63. You do need your calculator, or just hand calculate, I guess. Calculate by hand. I have 8570.38 in my notes. So now that you solve for k, you have to write the equation back. So that's the first step, right? And now we start the second step, 8570.38 over f. And then it's asking us when the string length is halved at 13 inches, what is my frequency? What's the sound like at that point? So if you do some arithmetic on your calculator, you should have 659.26. So the frequency of the 13-inch inch string is 659.26 cycles per second. How do you graph the reciprocal function y equals 1 over x? I'm going to use your textbook because it's a little bit wordy. The concept is fairly simple. So the first step you need to do is to consider the domain and the range. Obviously, y can be anything except 0 because the numerator is 1. And for x, the domain, x is in the denominator, so x is any real number except that x cannot equal 0, right? Now, the second step, we already know we create a table, and which is what we have here. We start with 0, and 0 is undefined, and from there on, you just pick some easy numbers to see how it shapes up. So you create these values, do these things, and then that's how you come up with this red two curves. That's your function, reciprocal function of y equals 1 over x. Okay, they do not touch each other. They do not connect with each other. They are in the first quadrant and the third quadrant. So that's the uniqueness of reciprocal functions. Now, you're not done yet. You have to take a look at this function and see where the asymptotes are. Notice that as x approaches infinity, what happens to the y? It approaches 0. As x approaches negative infinity, y also approaches 0, right? So that's an interesting phenomenon, which means y equals 0 is your horizontal asymptote. Okay, so that's what this step 3 is all about. If step 3 comes up, there we go. It's a horizontal asymptote. And same thing with step 4, as x approaches 0, as x gets close to 0, y approaches positive infinity as well as negative infinity there. Okay, so what that tells me is that x equals 0 is the vertical asymptote. X equals 0 is the vertical asymptote there. So again, for y equals 1 over x reciprocal function, you have two curves, one in first quadrant, one in the third quadrant. And they both have y equals 0 as well as x equals 0, meaning x-axis and y-axis as the asymptotes. Graph g of x equals 1 over x minus 3 plus 2. What are the equations of the asymptotes? What are the domain and range? So to begin with, as soon as I notice some limitations, in this case x minus 3 is in the denominator, so obviously x cannot be 3. So I mark it up immediately. Okay, and now let's move on to see what happens next. And it says start with the graph of the parent function f of x equals 1 over x, which is what these red two curves are. That's f of x equals 1 over x. And recall when we do f of x plus h, it translates the graph, the original parent function f of x, horizontally by h. But if I do f of x plus k, translates the graph of f of x vertically by k units. Therefore, the transformation of this q of x equals 1 over x minus h plus k shifts the graph of the parent function h units horizontally and then k units vertically. Okay, so this is the transformation you want to remember here. That's important. So let's see how it applies to our graph then. if we this one is shifting, right? The x is both curves are shifted to the right by 3 units right here. Shifted 3 units to the right. So that's why you see this blue asymptotes went from y equals 0 to now y equals 3. And then it's moving up by positive 2, which is why the x-axis that was the horizontal asymptote went up by 2. So that's where my new graph is. And next, it specifies the domain. In this case, I already pointed out it can't be 3. And if the domain cannot be 3, the y asymptote is y equals 2. So y can be any value except that y cannot be 2. So it makes sense, right? When x becomes really big, then 1 over x minus 3 becomes so tiny it's almost close to 0. And that's why if that term is 0, obviously my y value at that point is close to 2, but it's never touching 2. Here's a revisit of what we did in this unit. We reviewed y equals k over x, where k doesn't equal 0. That's the inverse function. And the transformation of it is y equals a over x minus h plus k. K is the vertical shift, and h is the horizontal shift. Okay, and here is the parent function, and here is an example of the transformation of the reciprocal function.